Hi, this is Richard here. So today I would like to talk to you about obligation. Now, when we talk about obligation in English, we normally use two terms. We can use must or we can use have to. So in the first part of the video today, I would like to explain to you the difference between must and have to. Now let me first just start by saying, in reality, there's not a big difference. Sometimes you can use either of these terms, and really, I would not worry about it. Just use what you feel comfortable with. But I do want to explain them today. So let's have a look at have to first. So let's look at a couple of examples of have to. Number one, we have to wear a uniform when working at reception. And number two, Sally can't come to the party tonight as she has to work. Now, we normally use have to express obligation that comes from outside the speaker, what we call an external obligation. So maybe a work rule, for example. Sally has to work, it's just part of the obligation she has with her job. Let me have another example. Let me give a couple of examples to you. I could ask the question, do you have to wear a tie at work? Because I'm asking about the work rules, the external work rules. Or we could say something like, you have to look after your dog's hair. That's because we use have to. You have to look after your dog's hair because dog experts say that it's a good idea and it's a really obligation for you as a dog owner. So it's not your decision, it's the dog owner's obligation that they're giving out. Now, must is used in a couple of different ways. Firstly, must is more formal. This is why we see must when we're talking about laws and rules and obligations such as regulations. So for example, if you're on a plane, you might see a sign or you might hear something that says passengers must fasten their seatbelts. It's this formal rule, and when we talk about rules and laws, we normally talk about it in a quite formal way. That's why we use must in that. But also, we use must when we're talking about a personal obligation. Oh, I must remember to buy a present for Jane today. She has a birthday party tomorrow, so I must remember to buy a present for her today. It's my obligation. I decide this. I make the obligation. Okay? But like I said, there's no real difference. Just use whatever. I really think if you asked 100 people in the UK, what's the difference between must and have to? If more than 5 people gave you a good answer, I would be surprised about that. But there is an important thing, because must is a modal verb. Modal verbs work a little bit differently. So we have this difference of must and have to only in the present tense, because must does not work outside the present tense. So if we're talking in the past tense, we use had to. Whether it's must or whether it's have to, we use had to in the past tense. And in the future, we talk about will have to. It's the same. Must does not work in the future, so will have to. Now be careful, because when we use the negative forms of must and have to, they have very different meanings. So let's look at the first one. Mustn't. Must not. Mustn't. Now this really means, we can think of this like a negative obligation, like something is not allowed, it's forbidden. You mustn't drink alcohol and drive. Okay, it's a serious thing, there's a serious consequence if you don't do it. So mustn't is when something is not allowed. You have this obligation to not do something. And the negative of have to is don't have to. Now this means something different, be careful, because don't have to just means there is no obligation. Let's look at this example. Normally, I have to wake up at 6 a.m. But tomorrow, it's Sunday tomorrow in this case, tomorrow I don't have to wake up early. There is no obligation. I don't have to work tomorrow, so I have no obligation to wake up early. Now, if I want, I can wake up early. It's allowed. I can go for a run or have an early breakfast, but there's no obligation for it. Or for example, if you go to London, you should definitely visit the British Museum when you're in London. It's free. You don't have to pay. So when you go to the British Museum, there's no obligation to pay. Now you can, they have various points in the museum where you can put some money into a box and you can leave £10 or £20, but you don't have to. So you still have this choice. It's not banned, but you don't have to. Okay? So just a couple of terms there when we're talking about obligation. I might do a second video where we talk about need to, should, really should, had better. We might talk about those in a different video. So stay tuned, click follow, click subscribe, and if you want to try out some sentences, put them in the comments and I will check them for you. Okay? I hope that helps. Thanks.